I'm worried about some of the social attitudes I've heard in this hall tonight.
This morning?
Sorry, this morning. It's all dark in here. I'm worried when somebody sitting next to a well-known gay activist says, "I believe that you had a mother," and gets a round of applause. Now, that's bigotry, and I'm worried about that.
I'm surprised you are worried about that. We are debating, and it's a very intelligent man. He made a statement earlier on about why different religions are not tolerated.
You justified it on biblical grounds.
Let me answer you, sir.
You justified it on biblical grounds.
Because in here, there are people that will believe in what we will all get applaud one way or another in what somebody else is saying. He was given birth to by a woman. It was his choice to be gay, whether it was something that he inherited or not. That is what I believe. I believe that to be the truth. And so I don't personally believe that two men should live together or two women should be. That is my belief, and I stand by that.
I don't care what you personally believe.
Stand by that, and I stand by that.
Dawkins?
I don't think it's of much interest what you or anybody else personally believes.
Well, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
The question is, what is the evidence?
Yeah.
And there is no evidence that, as you say, you have a choice about being gay or not. You justified what you said on biblical grounds, which sounds awfully much to me like forcing your views upon other people.
I guess what this comes down to. Hang on, now let's not get sidetracked too much on this. But what this interestingly comes down to is the focus on the contention, Rabbi Shochet, that godly people are necessarily better people. Is that necessarily the case?
Not necessarily the case, no. You don't have to be a godly person in order to be a good person. What needs to be put in perspective, and I think we're all deluding ourselves, is the fact that no one faith has the right to impose its value system on its society. Every faith has broader values that can certainly be adopted by society. The cardinal sins, idolatry, worship of materialism today, adultery, the breakdown of family, murder in its very real sense are as rampant today as before. Immigration is making no impact on society.
Is it challenging in any sense the consensus of liberalism, with a small L, that we have in this country? Tolerance and liberalism. Is that in any way challenged by immigration?
To a degree, it probably is, but only insofar as where certain societies look to impose their value system on broader society. What I choose to believe, what she chooses to believe, and Peter is prepared to accept her right to believe that, is fair enough. But if she's going to try and impose that on mainstream society, that's fundamentally flawed. The real problem, let me just conclude with one point. The real issue is, it's not immigration that's impacting society. I think immigrants themselves are losing their value systems and being influenced by society.
Councillor Alan King. Yasmin in a second. Councillor. It behoves me at this point to say, for reasons of rules and regulations, you are one of 10 candidates standing for the position of Mayor of London. Carry on.
Thank you very much. Get Ken Livingstone out, that's what I do. I think what we see here is what we heard from Professor Dawkins, that extraordinary arrogance, that if you have some views different from his, your views are not acceptable. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as a vacuum. There are therefore values in the public sphere. The question is whether you have the lady here, the Pentecostal evangelical, with whom I would identify and encourage her to speak up, or you get the arrogance that says her views are not valid. Actually, there have to be some views out there. The question is, can we live together? Can we tolerate each other? Not write one another out like Professor Dawkins was trying to do. She's absolutely entitled to her views.
Tolerance and freedom of speech we will come on to, and the right to offend, but surely all our views are valid, aren't they?
No, not necessarily. It depends on the evidence. She made a factual statement about the upbringing of gays and about whether gay people are free to change their minds or not. That is a factual statement. There is evidence bearing on it. That means that personal opinion, which is not informed by evidence, is not of interest.
Yasmin, you've written this fascinating book about your own upbringing in this country. Your parents came from. Remind me where they came from.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. Do you discern a danger that we are stepping back in time, in a sense, with some of the attitudes being brought into this country?
Okay, before I go on to that, I have a real problem with discussions like this. We're talking about Britain's moral decline, and then we're looking at it through the prism of immigration. I have a real problem with discussions like this. We're talking about Britain's moral decline, and then we're looking at it through the prism of immigration. And we're totally distracting ourselves from the real problem, okay, what Britain is today. And there is a problem. We're not looking at the kind of pressures, the fact that life has got more complex. Of course, immigrants bring a lot of good values to this country. Who are immigrants? They're often the most kind of ambitious, entrepreneurial, creative people in their societies who come over here. But at some point, immigrants stop being immigrants and they have to become citizens. And that's when a new whole ballgame starts. And now we're talking about a situation where, okay, what kind of society are we going to build? How are we going to keep cohesive with the different value systems? Now, immigrants some of them are socially conservative. If you go back to the countries they came from, you'll find a lot of progressive people. There's good and bad everywhere. So I think let's stop talking about immigration as some sort of way of looking at this issue of moral decline, and let's look at sort of what Britain has become today and why we've got people like Shannon Matthews cases and this low self-esteem amongst...
Although, to be fair, the question was posed in a very positive sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't a negative take on
no,
immigration.
Sure, I understand.
It was taking it from a very positive point of view. Thank you for that, Yasmin. Thank you all very much for those contributions with our interesting sideline between Betty and Richard on the way through. As ever, the debate continues on our message board. Just log on to bbc.co.uk/thebigquestions and send us your thoughts on our next two topics as well. Do we have the right to offend? And does the devil exist?